So yeah, maps for sale. So this is going to be a sort of a roughly unstructured stream of consciousness talk about this website that I bought myself into a little over a year and a half ago, and what I learned about that. So first of all, as Rick has already said, I do a lot of cartography, GIS. Been running Geographics since 2004. Had a take this job and shove it moment, which I can probably not recommend to anybody who wants to start their own business. I've been coming to NACIS since 2005. I've been loving it, so that's why I've been coming back ever since. I used to be the Cartotalk editor for NACIS. I'm one of the board members at the moment. And yeah, I like to take photos, ride bikes, and take photos of people riding their bikes, which is going to be a sort of a red thread throughout this presentation. And as of a couple of months ago, I'm no longer the entire company. So 2 people are now helping me part-time. If you're interested in starting your own business, you'll probably hear that hiring your first employee is going to be the most difficult step. And I figured I'd circumvent that by hiring 2 at the same time. Doesn't actually work that way. So anyway, cycling. A big red thread throughout this presentation is going to be cyclocross. And for those of you who don't know what it is, it's been recently described by a Dutch comedy TV show as a mix between cycling, cross-country running, Boy Scouts, and the Battle of Verdun. Because it's a winter sport, and you kind of got to do it when it's really muddy. And so I've been a fan for a couple of years. I've been going to races, I've been taking photos, I've been taking an interest in the riders, so I started following them on social media. And then back in 2015, in the summer, one of the riders that I follow, she put out a call on her social media saying, "Hey, I'm looking for sponsors for the next season. If you're interested, let me know." And I was like, "Oh yeah, might as well do that." So I did. And well, that's where it all went pear-shaped. So currently I'm sponsoring 5 international riders. I could actually start my own team. Really funny, one of them is actually studying to become a cartographer, so that's why I'm sponsoring him. But you might wonder, what on earth does that have to do with maps? Well, one of my current riders that I have under contract, and actually also one of the people who's currently working for me, I met her at a mountain biking clinic that my very first rider organized at the start of that season. She was helping out. And then 2 years later, in December 2017, in Essen, Belgium, after the race, I was standing right at the finish, and so she's finished and she's getting her senses back together, and she recognizes me. So she comes up to me and says, "Hey, aren't you the guy who used to sponsor Sanne? Do you want to sponsor me as well?" She's very direct. So we had a little chat about that. We continued to chat over text messages the next week, and she says, "Oh, next weekend I'm riding in Antwerp. Why don't you come over, and after the race we'll continue talking." So, okay. I wasn't actually planning on going to that race, but Antwerp is not too far, so I figured I'd go ahead and do that. And so as I'm on the train towards Antwerp, this happens. So I get a text message from one of my clients, one of my map publisher users in Belgium, and a couple of years before that he had set up his own website to sell digital stock maps. And he texts me completely out of nowhere. Like, "Hey Hans, remember that website that I got?" I said, "Yeah, what about it?" He says, "Well, I want to sell it. Do you maybe know somebody who might be interested? Can you help me out determining what the value might be?" And I'm like, "Well, tell me more." So he does. He sends me over some documents with some numbers, and I was like, well, this is actually looking pretty interesting. So long story short, One Stop Map. It is a website selling stock digital maps. We currently offer 2 different versions. So you can get a printable version, which is a high-res JPEG, and an unlayered PDF with all of the text converted to PAS. So you can edit that, but it's going to be extremely difficult. And then for a slightly higher price, we offer editable AI and EPS and PDFs, as well as the high-res JPEGs. The maps that we offer, they're royalty-free. So once you've bought it, you can do whatever you want with them. They come in a couple of different styles. It's also, of course, a driver for custom maps. So people who look on the website and they don't really see what they're after, so they contact us and say, hey, can you make a custom map for us? And most of it is actually business to business. So we're selling them to other businesses who use them for whatever. So the business side, and I'm not going to be like Rick, I'm not going to name any numbers publicly, but if you are interested, you're more than welcome to come up to me afterwards, and I'll be happy to talk about that. So Koen and I spent a couple of days, weeks, going back and forth in email and phone calls, and we finally reached a deal, because he wanted to sell the whole thing in one go, and he had an amount in his head that I thought was actually reasonable, but it was more than I was able to pay in one go. I was actually able to pay it, but then all of my savings would be gone. It's a little bit too risky. And so we worked out an arrangement where I would buy myself a 50% share in it. But for the first 18 months, because I was going to be doing pretty much 95% of the work, I would get all of the profits for those first 18 months. This actually also included or involved making the switch from Belgium to the Netherlands, because Koen is Belgian and I'm Dutch, which means that we had to register a couple of things with my Dutch tax ID, and sort of sales tax is now calculated for the Netherlands rather than Belgium, that kind of stuff. So it actually took more effort than we thought it would. Also, in retrospect, we should have started that period like on the start of a quarter rather than 3 weeks in, because my accountant was like, you idiot, now for 3 weeks I have to do something completely different. Next time you do this, talk to me first. And so we went through that whole process, and we decided that we would reevaluate the partnership after the first 18 months. So to give you an idea of the kind of maps that are on there, so the most detailed level that we have right now is US states and Canadian provinces, and then it's countries and continents and world maps. When I say countries, it actually does go all the way from Russia on the top end to Vatican City on the lower end. And so a map style that will work for Russia, probably not going to work for Vatican City. So there's maps on there which are really just the outline of Vatican City or Monaco or San Marino. I don't think they've actually ever sold. But on the top end, we've got big world maps, printable at quite big sizes. Price-wise, they range from, I think the cheapest one is actually Vatican City, uneditable is $5. And then some of the world maps, the editable versions, they go up to $100. In fact, I sold one earlier this morning. The production process of the maps, it's pretty much all Map Publisher nowadays. It's all using natural earth data, so all of the data that we're putting into those maps is royalty-free and everything. We found a couple of royalty-free fonts that actually look pretty darn good. It's PT Sans and PT Serif, so consider them if you have a need for them. And one of the things I wanted to do when I got myself into One Stop Map was trying to go one level deeper and sort of start offering maps for larger urban areas. So I'm not really sure the colors really show on the projector, but we've started with 35 major metropolitan areas all over the world, and we're going to get those out of something called Maps for News, which is sort of a quick map production system based on top of the HERE NAVTEC dataset. I would have loved to be able to use OpenStreetMap for that if it wasn't for the fact it's currently rather difficult to actually get your hands on the data. And with Maps for News, it's literally select a box, hit go, and then within usually 3 or 4 minutes you get an EPS file, which is layered and editable, and we can actually work that in. So there's a couple of challenges that I came across when I was doing this. One of the biggest ones is that I don't know who my audience is. And I knew this already. I know that if I'm making a map and I have somebody that I'm making the map for, it's fine. If I'm making the map for myself, I'm being way too easy on myself. So trying to make maps for an unknown audience is actually surprisingly difficult, at least it is for me. So we don't know who they are. We don't know what they will want to use the maps for. We don't know what they will want on the maps. So I'm trying to be as generic as possible, but it's kind of difficult. The other thing we bumped into is that actually marketing is, I've always said marketing is something other people do, and that's actually quite true. So for my regular business, Geographics, I don't actually need to do a lot of marketing. But for this, the problem is that it doesn't matter how good your maps are. If people don't know that they can buy them, it's pointless. So we tried going with the social media way to promote them for a couple of months. That never really worked out quite well. We've done some cyclocross sponsoring, which actually turned into a sort of a spinal tap moment when we realized actually at the first race of that season that on the race suits that she's wearing, so there's a one-stop map logo and URL on the side of her body, it's upside down. So when she's on the bike, it's upside down. You don't notice it when she's standing up straight, but on the bike. And we didn't actually realize this until I was actually editing the photos from that first race. It's like, hang on. Another thing is customers, and they come up with strange requests. They want refunds every now and then. In fact, some of them have been trying to get refunds without actually ever having bought anything. So there is a 30-day money-back policy that was introduced by the original owner of One Stop Map, and I've just kept it. And so every now and then we get an email, hey, I've bought this map and I don't like it, and it's within 30 days, can I get my money back? I was like, I don't see your order anywhere. Some of them have unrealistic expectations. So this is actually a prime example. Somebody had bought the map of Barbados, and then a couple of hours later they email and said, yeah, I just bought this map and I can't use it because there's no roads on it. Like, well, so the preview image that's on the website is actually from the actual map, and there's no roads on it. So I double-checked the descriptions. It never says anywhere that there's roads on it. So, I mean, I wasn't going to argue for $20, but I was like, where are these people coming from? There's more challenges. So when I got myself into One Stop Map, it had about 600 maps in the web store. I think I've added about 150. The actual process of adding the maps to the web store, at least the one that we're using, so it's WooCommerce on top of WordPress, it's actually kind of sluggish and it's rather time consuming. Of course, I've got personnel for that now. So definitely that's something to keep in mind. There's fluctuations in sales figures. So 1 month we may sell a lot of maps, make $2,000 or $3,000, and then the other month it's like $200 or $300. And again, getting back to that whole thing about who is our target audience, we have no idea. We're going to look into that, and we're going to see if we can identify some trends in that, and maybe see if we can market it more specifically towards certain users. But it's kind of tricky still. On the other hand, the good news is that within about 10 months, I had made my initial investment back. So it was a good investment. So moving on, as of October 1st of this year, we're now a team of 3. So it's me, I'll be doing the maps. That's then the original owner, Koen, who is doing the website. And then Veerle, who is my cyclocross rider and part-time employee, and she's now also an equal partner who is going to do marketing. We're introducing new map series. We're going to try and emphasize custom map services more, because right now there's just one link on the website linking to a form where people can request a map. And it's about 10 to 15 per year. So we want to see if we can get a little bit more coming in. We also want to introduce something called a golden ticket. So for a fixed price, you get full access for a certain amount of time. So let's say for a year, and see how that works out. We may actually have to split it off as a separate business entity, which might actually mean that I would become a multinational company if we keep part of it in Belgium and part of it in the Netherlands. We may start introducing map publisher aware maps. So instead of just the 2 tiers that we have right now, for new maps we can also get the premium version, which has a map publisher map view and map themes and all that. So that might make it more interesting for other cartographers. And we're going to look again at our marketing strategy. And in fact, as of this season, there's no one-stop map sponsorship of cyclocross riders, at least not on Git. So Veerle is now riding around with the red Geographics logo on her clothing. And I think in retrospect, I'm happy I took the plunge. It was a little bit of an exciting time, a little bit of an exciting moment. It was actually the biggest investment I'd ever done apart from my house. I've never bought a car that was worth more than what I invested in one-stop map. So it was something that was kind of stressful, but like I said, I'm happy how it worked out, and I'm very much looking forward to the future of one-stop map. So that's it. If you have any questions, either right now or afterwards, can be about maps or one-stop map or cyclocross, feel free. And also please do follow my riders. They're all great people and they're doing their best to become very successful. Right. Thank you.